My name is Dorothy Williams, and I'm 68 years old. 2 months ago, I stood in the living room of the house I'd lived in for 35 years, the house my late husband Samuel and I had bought when our daughter Paulette was just a baby, and watched my own child hand me an eviction notice. "Mama, you have 30 days to find somewhere else to live," Paulette said, not even looking me in the eye. Her husband Kenneth stood behind her with his arms crossed, nodding like he was proud of what they were doing. I looked down at the legal document in my shaking hands, an eviction notice from my own daughter, telling me I had to leave my home. But here's what Paulette and Kenneth didn't know. This house wasn't theirs. And when I walked out 30 days later, I took everything with me, everything they thought they owned, everything they'd been planning to keep. Let me tell you how my daughter and her husband tried to throw me out of my own home. And let me tell you how I made sure they ended up with nothing but an empty house and a whole lot of regrets. It was a Wednesday morning in early October when Paulette showed up at my door with Kenneth and that piece of paper. I'd been living with them for 2 years, ever since my husband Samuel passed away and I'd gotten sick. Or at least, that's what I thought was happening. What I didn't know was that my daughter had been planning something very different. Let me go back to the beginning, so you understand how I ended up in this situation. Before we dive into this story about betrayal, manipulation, and the sweetest revenge you've ever heard, make sure you subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that like button and turn on notifications because this grandmother doesn't play games. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from: United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Jamaica, South Africa. Let me know who's here with me. Now let's find out how Dorothy's own daughter tried to steal everything from her. 2 years before Paulette handed me that eviction notice, my husband Samuel died of a heart attack. He was 70 years old, and we'd been married for 46 years. His death devastated me. Samuel and I had lived in our 3-bedroom house in Atlanta for 35 years. We'd raised Paulette there. We'd celebrated every holiday there. We'd built a life there. After Samuel died, I got depressed. I stopped eating properly. I stopped taking care of the house. I just sat in our bedroom crying, surrounded by memories of the man I'd loved for almost half a century. That's when Paulette stepped in. "Mama, you can't stay in this house alone," Paulette said one day, about 3 months after Samuel's funeral. "You're not eating. You're not taking care of yourself. I'm worried about you." "I'm fine, baby," I said, though I wasn't fine at all. "No, you're not," Paulette insisted. "Mama, Kenneth, and I have been talking. We have that big house in Stone Mountain with plenty of room. Why don't you move in with us? At least for a while until you're feeling better." I hesitated. I loved my house. It was filled with memories of Samuel. But Paulette was right. I wasn't taking care of myself, and the thought of not being alone was appealing. "Just for a little while," I agreed, "until I get back on my feet." "Of course, Mama," Paulette said, hugging me, "just until you're feeling better." So I moved into Paulette and Kenneth's house. They had a beautiful 5-bedroom home in a nice neighborhood. Kenneth worked as an IT manager and made good money. Paulette worked as a medical receptionist. They had 2 teenage sons, Deshaun, 16, and Malik, 14, who I loved dearly. They gave me the guest bedroom on the 1st floor. It was comfortable and private. I brought some of my clothes and personal items, but I left most of my furniture and belongings in my house. "Don't worry about the house, Mama," Paulette said. "We'll keep an eye on it. You can go back whenever you want." But I didn't go back. The days turned into weeks, then months. I was comfortable at Paulette and Kenneth's house. They took care of me. Paulette made sure I ate. Kenneth fixed things for me when I needed help. My grandsons kept me company and made me laugh. Slowly, I started to heal from Samuel's death. I started to feel like myself again. But then things started to change. About 6 months after I moved in with Paulette and Kenneth, I noticed the first signs that something wasn't right. I was sitting in the living room one evening when I overheard Paulette and Kenneth talking in the kitchen. They didn't know I could hear them. "How much longer is your mother going to be here?" Kenneth asked. "I don't know," Paulette said. "She seems comfortable. I don't think she's planning to move back to her house anytime soon." "Well, she needs to," Kenneth said, his voice irritated. Paulette, it's been 6 months. I thought this was temporary. It was supposed to be, Paulette said. But Kenneth, I can't just kick my mother out. I'm not saying kick her out, Kenneth said. But we need to have a conversation about how long this arrangement is going to last. We have 2 teenage boys. They need space. We need privacy. Your mother living here indefinitely isn't working for me. I'll talk to her, Paulette promised. I felt hurt listening to that conversation. Kenneth saw me as a burden, and Paulette hadn't defended me the way I'd hoped she would. But I told myself I was being too sensitive. They'd taken me in when I needed help. Of course, they wanted their space back eventually. That was normal. A few days later, Paulette came to talk to me. Mama, how are you feeling? She asked, sitting down next to me in the living room. I'm doing much better, baby, I said. Thank you for asking. That's good, Paulette said. Mama, I wanted to talk to you about something. You've been here for 6 months now, and we love having you, but I was wondering, have you thought about moving back to your house? I felt a sting of rejection. Are you trying to get rid of me? No, Mama, of course not, Paulette said quickly. It's just, you seem like you're doing so much better, and Kenneth and I were thinking that maybe you'd be more comfortable back in your own home, with your own space, your own things. I thought you wanted me here, I said quietly. We do want you here, Paulette insisted. But Mama, we also want you to be happy, and we thought maybe being back in your own house, surrounded by your memories of Daddy, might be good for you. I'm not ready yet, I said, going back to that house without Samuel. I'm just not ready. Paulette sighed. Okay, Mama, I understand, but will you think about it, maybe in a few more months? I'll think about it, I agreed. But I didn't think about it. I pushed the conversation out of my mind and tried to pretend everything was fine. 1 year after I moved in with Paulette and Kenneth, the pressure to leave increased significantly. Kenneth stopped being friendly to me. He'd walk past me without saying hello. He'd make comments about needing more space. He'd complain about the guest bathroom that I used being always occupied. Paulette started bringing up my house more and more often. Mama, I drove past your house the other day, Paulette would say. The yard needs work. The paint is starting to peel. That house needs someone living in it and taking care of it. I'll hire someone to do the yard work, I'd say. But Mama, wouldn't it be better if you were there, taking care of it yourself? Paulette would press. I started to feel unwelcome in their home, but I still wasn't ready to go back to my house. The thought of being alone in that house, with all those memories of Samuel, still hurt too much. Then Kenneth did something that shocked me. One evening at dinner, Kenneth said, Dorothy, Paulette, and I have been talking. We think it's time for you to move back to your house. Kenneth, Paulette started, looking uncomfortable. No, Paulette, we need to be direct, Kenneth interrupted. Dorothy, you've been here for a year. That's a long time. We've been happy to help you through your grief, but it's time for you to go back to your own home and your own life. Our sons need more space. Paulette and I need our privacy. This arrangement can't continue indefinitely. I felt tears forming. You want me to leave? We're not kicking you out, Kenneth said, though his tone suggested otherwise. We're just saying it's time for you to go back to your house. You're feeling better now. You're ready. I'll decide when I'm ready, I said, my voice shaking. Dorothy, be reasonable, Kenneth said. You can't live with us forever. At some point, you have to move on with your life. I looked at Paulette, hoping she'd defend me, but she just looked down at her plate. Mama, Paulette said quietly, Kenneth's right, it might be time. I stood up from the table. Excuse me, I've lost my appetite. I went to my room and cried. My own daughter wanted me gone. After everything I'd done for her, raising her, supporting her, being there for her entire life, she wanted me out of her house. But I still didn't leave. I was stubborn. This was my daughter's home, and I told myself she'd eventually come around. She'd remember that family takes care of family. I was wrong about that. 18 months after I moved in with Paulette and Kenneth, something happened that changed everything. I was looking for a pen in Paulette's home office one day when I found a folder labeled Mama's House. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. Inside were documents, legal documents, documents about my house. There was a deed, a property deed for my house, but it didn't have my name on it. It had Paulette's name on it. My hands started shaking as I read through the papers. According to these documents, I had signed my house over to Paulette 6 months ago. The deed was in her name. She owned my house. But I had never signed anything. I had never transferred my house to Paulette. This deed was fake. Or was it? I looked more carefully at the signature on the document. It looked like my signature. The handwriting was similar to mine. Had I signed this and forgotten? Had I been so depressed after Samuel's death that I'd signed something without realizing what it was? No, I would remember signing away my house. Even in my grief, I would remember that. Which meant Paulette had forged my signature. My own daughter had forged my signature on a property deed to steal my house. I kept reading through the folder. There were emails between Paulette and Kenneth discussing the house. Emails from 6 months after I'd moved in with them. One email from Kenneth to Paulette said, "Your mother's been here 6 months and shows no signs of leaving. If she's going to stay permanently, we need to have that house. We can rent it out for income or sell it. Either way, we need to get it in your name." Paulette's response, "I agree, but how? She's not going to just give me the house." Kenneth's reply, "Then we'll have to be creative. You're good at her signature. You've been signing her checks for months to pay her bills. Just sign the deed transfer papers. Get them notarized. File them. It'll be done before she even knows about it." Paulette's response, "What if she finds out?" Kenneth's reply, "By the time she finds out, the deed will be filed and legal. She's living in our house. She depends on us. What's she going to do? She's not going to fight us." I felt sick reading these emails. My daughter and her husband had conspired to steal my house. They'd forged my signature. They'd filed fraudulent documents. They'd committed a crime. And they'd done it while pretending to take care of me out of love. I put the folder back exactly where I found it. I didn't say anything to Paulette or Kenneth, but I started making plans. If they wanted me out of their house, I'd leave. But I'd make sure I took everything with me. Everything they thought they'd stolen. Everything they thought they'd get away with. Because what Paulette and Kenneth didn't know was that I was smarter than they gave me credit for. And I was about to prove it. 2 years after I moved in with Paulette and Kenneth, and 6 months after I discovered the forged deed, they finally made their move. That Wednesday morning in October, Paulette and Kenneth came to my room together. They looked serious, almost rehearsed. "Mama, we need to talk to you," Paulette said. "What is it, baby?" I asked, pretending I didn't know something was coming. "Mama, Kenneth, and I have been patient," Paulette said. "We've let you stay here for 2 years. We've taken care of you. We've supported you. But we've decided it's time for you to leave." "Leave," I repeated as if this was shocking news. "Yes," Kenneth said firmly. "Dorothy, you need to move out. You need to go back to your house or find somewhere else to live. But you can't stay here anymore." "But where will I go?" I asked, playing the part of the helpless elderly mother. "You have your house," Paulette said. "You can go back there." "My house," I said, but I thought. "Actually, Mama, about that," Paulette interrupted. She pulled out a document. "This is the deed to your house. It's in my name now. You signed it over to me 18 months ago, remember?" "I never signed anything," I said, which was true. "Yes, you did, Mama," Paulette insisted. "You were depressed after Daddy died. You said you wanted me to have the house. You said you didn't want to deal with it anymore, so you signed it over to me." "That's a lie," I said. "Mama, here's your signature," Paulette said, showing me the forged deed. "Right there, you signed this." I started. "Whether you remember signing it or not doesn't matter," Kenneth interrupted. "The deed is legal. It's been filed. The house belongs to Paulette now. But Mama, we're not heartless. We're going to let you continue living in the house. You can rent it from us." "Rent my own house," I said, my voice rising. "It's not your house anymore," Kenneth said bluntly. "It's Paulette's house. But yes, you can rent it. We'll charge you $1,200 a month. That's below market rate, so consider it a family discount." I stared at them in disbelief. They wanted me to pay rent to live in my own house that they'd stolen from me. And if I don't want to rent it, I asked. Then you'll need to find somewhere else to live, Kenneth said with a shrug. That's your choice. Mama, please don't make this harder than it needs to be, Paulette said. We're giving you options. You can rent the house or you can find another place to live, but you can't stay here anymore. We need our space back. That's when Kenneth pulled out the eviction notice. This is a formal notice, Kenneth said. You have 30 days to vacate this property. We're sorry it's come to this, but Dorothy, you've overstayed your welcome. He handed me the paper. I looked down at it, my hands shaking, though not from fear, from rage. 30 days, I repeated. 30 days, Kenneth confirmed. And Mama, we'd appreciate it if you decide soon whether you want to rent your old house or find somewhere else. If you want to rent it, we'll need first month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit. That's $3,600 up front. They wanted me to pay $3,600 to move back into my own house. I understand, I said quietly. Good, Kenneth said. We knew you'd be reasonable. After they left my room, I sat on my bed and looked at the eviction notice. 30 days. That gave me 30 days to execute the plan I'd been working on for the past 6 months. 30 days to make sure that when I walked out of this house, I took everything with me. Everything they thought they owned. Everything they thought they'd stolen. Everything. Because what Paulette and Kenneth didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment since the day I found that forged deed. I'd been talking to lawyers. I'd been gathering evidence. I'd been making arrangements. And in 30 days, they were going to realize they'd made the biggest mistake of their lives. My daughter wanted me out? Fine, I'd get out. But I'd make sure she and Kenneth ended up with nothing but an empty house and a mountain of legal troubles. The morning after Paulette and Kenneth handed me that eviction notice, I woke up at 5 a.m. and got straight to work. I had 30 days to execute the plan I'd been carefully preparing for 6 months. 30 days to make sure my daughter and son-in-law learned a very expensive lesson about greed and betrayal. But first, let me tell you about what I'd been doing during those 6 months after I discovered the forged deed. Because while Paulette and Kenneth thought I was just a helpless old woman they could push around, I'd been building a case against them that would destroy everything they'd planned. The day after I found that forged deed in Paulette's office, I'd taken photos of every document in that folder with my phone. The fake deed. The emails between Paulette and Kenneth discussing how to steal my house. The notary stamp they'd used, which turned out to belong to Kenneth's cousin Jerome, who was a notary public and had clearly helped them commit fraud. Then I'd very carefully put everything back exactly as I'd found it. I didn't want them to know I'd discovered their scheme. Not yet. The next day, I'd called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but the best real estate attorney in Atlanta, a woman named Constance Howard who had a reputation for taking down real estate fraud cases. I'd found her online and made an appointment using the excuse that I needed to go to the doctor. Paulette didn't question it. In Constance's office, I'd shown her the photos of the documents. Mrs. Williams, Constance had said after reviewing everything, your daughter and son-in-law have committed several felonies: forgery, fraud, identity theft. Filing false documents with the county. This is serious. Can we fix it? I'd asked. We can do better than fix it, Constance had said with a smile. We can make sure they face consequences for what they've done. But Mrs. Williams, I need to ask, do you want to press charges against your own daughter? I'd thought about it for a long moment. Paulette was my only child, the baby I'd raised and loved, but she'd stolen from me. She'd forged my signature. She'd conspired with her husband to take everything I had. Yes, I'd said firmly. I want to press charges, and I want my house back. Then here's what we're going to do, Constance had said. Over the next 6 months, Constance and I had built an airtight case against Paulette and Kenneth. First, we'd filed a quiet title action, a lawsuit to establish that I was the true owner of my house and that the deed in Paulette's name was fraudulent. We'd done this quietly, without Paulette or Kenneth knowing. The court proceedings were sealed because fraud was involved. We'd hired a handwriting expert who analyzed the signature on the forged deed. His report confirmed what I already knew. The signature was a forgery. It was similar to my handwriting, but there were telltale differences that proved someone else had signed my name. We'd also tracked down the notary, Kenneth's cousin Jerome, and gotten a statement from him. At first, Jerome had been reluctant to talk. But when Constance explained that he could face criminal charges for notarizing a document he knew was fraudulent, Jerome had sung like a bird. Jerome admitted that Kenneth had asked him to notarize the deed transfer as a favor. Kenneth had told Jerome that I'd sign the document but couldn't come in person because I was too depressed after my husband's death. Jerome had notarized it without actually witnessing my signature, which was illegal. Jerome's statement was damning evidence that Kenneth and Paulette had knowingly committed fraud. We'd also subpoenaed Paulette and Kenneth's emails and text messages. Under discovery rules in the lawsuit, they had to turn over any communications related to my house. That's how we'd gotten official copies of the emails I'd photographed in Paulette's office, the ones where Kenneth and Paulette discussed forging my signature. Constance had also done something brilliant. She'd contacted the county recorder's office and gotten a copy of every document that had been filed related to my property. That's when we discovered something shocking. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Paulette and Kenneth hadn't just forged one document. They'd forged several. They'd created a fake power of attorney document giving Paulette control over all my financial affairs. They'd used this document to access my bank accounts, and they'd been slowly draining my savings. Over the 18 months since the deed was filed, Paulette had withdrawn over $35,000 from my accounts. She'd claimed it was for expenses related to caring for me, my share of groceries, utilities, medical supplies. But the amounts she'd taken were far more than any legitimate expenses would have been. My daughter hadn't just stolen my house. She'd been stealing my money, too. When I found this out, I'd felt physically sick. Paulette and Kenneth hadn't taken me in out of love or concern. They'd taken me in so they could steal everything I had. They'd pretended to care for me while systematically robbing me blind. But now I had evidence of all of it, and Constance had a plan for how to use that evidence. "Mrs. Williams," Constance had said during one of our meetings, "we can win this case. The evidence is overwhelming. The court will rule that the deed is fraudulent and restore the property to you. Paulette and Kenneth will likely face criminal charges." "Good," I'd said. "But I want to suggest a strategy," Constance had continued. "We could confront them now with the lawsuit and the evidence, but I think we should wait." "Wait for what?" I'd asked. "For them to evict you," Constance had said. "Mrs. Williams, they're going to eventually ask you to leave. When they do, they'll probably give you an eviction notice. And when they do that, they'll have to take you to eviction court. That will be a public proceeding. That's when we drop the hammer." "What do you mean?" I'd asked. "We'll let them file the eviction," Constance had explained. "We'll let them think they're winning. And then, when we're in court, we'll present all our evidence. We'll expose the fraud publicly. We'll show the judge and everyone in that courtroom exactly what they've done. And we'll make sure they face consequences not just civilly, but criminally." I'd liked that plan, a lot. So for 6 months, I'd waited. I'd pretended to be the helpless old woman they thought I was. I'd let them believe their plan was working, and I'd gathered more and more evidence. The morning after Kenneth handed me that eviction notice, I called Constance. "They did it," I told her. "They gave me a formal eviction notice, 30 days. "Perfect," Constance said. "Now here's what we're going to do. Don't fight the eviction. In fact, act like you're cooperating. Tell them you're going to move out. Let them think they've won." "What about my belongings?" I asked. "I have furniture and personal items in my house. What if they try to keep them or sell them?" "Start documenting everything," Constance said. "Go to your house. It's still legally yours even though they think they own it. Take photos of everything in the house. Make a detailed inventory. If they try to stop you from accessing the house or taking your belongings, that's illegal and we can use it against them." "And what about my money?" I asked. "The $35,000 they stole from me." "We're going to get every penny back," Constance promised. "Plus damages, plus attorney's fees. Mrs. Williams, by the time we're done, Paulette and Kenneth are going to owe you a lot more than they stole." That afternoon, I went to Paulette. "Paulette, I've thought about what you and Kenneth said," I told her, keeping my voice calm and resigned. "I understand. I've overstayed my welcome. I'll move out." Paulette looked relieved. "Thank you, Mama. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this." "But I need to go to my house and get it ready," I said. "I need to go through my things, figure out what I'm taking with me. Can I have a key?" Paulette hesitated. "Mama, I'm not sure." "Paulette, it's still my furniture in that house," I said. "My belongings, I need to sort through them." "Fine," Paulette said. She gave me a key. "But Mama, most of that furniture should stay. If you're going to rent the house from us, it's already furnished. You won't need to take much." "We'll see," I said. That same afternoon, I went to my house. I walked through the front door and felt a wave of emotion. This was the house Samuel and I had bought 35 years ago. This was where we'd raised Paulette. This was where we'd built our life together. And my own daughter had tried to steal it from me. I spent the next 6 hours photographing every single thing in that house. Every piece of furniture, every painting on the walls, every dish in the kitchen, every item in every drawer. I also found something interesting. Paulette and Kenneth had already started making changes to my house. They'd repainted the living room. They'd replaced the curtains in the master bedroom. They'd even replaced my old couch with a new one. They'd been preparing to rent out my house, or maybe even sell it, and they'd been improving it with new furniture and decorations. Using my stolen money, no doubt. I took photos of all of this too. Every change they'd made, every new item they'd brought in. It was all evidence of their intent to profit from the property they'd stolen. Over the next week, I made multiple trips to the house. Each time, I took a few small items with me, photo albums, jewelry, important documents that Samuel and I had kept, things that were irreplaceable. I stored everything at a friend's house. My friend Beatrice had been my neighbor for 20 years before I moved in with Paulette. When I told Beatrice what Paulette and Kenneth had done, she was horrified. "Dorothy, they forged your signature," Beatrice said, outraged. "That's criminal. You need to call the police." "I will," I promised. "But not yet. I'm waiting for the right moment." "What moment?" Beatrice asked. "You'll see," I said with a smile. 2 weeks after the eviction notice, Kenneth came to talk to me. "Dorothy, you have 2 weeks left," he said. "Have you decided whether you want to rent your old house from us?" "I'm thinking about it," I said. "Well, think faster," Kenneth said impatiently. "If you want to rent it, we need first month, last month, and security deposit. That's $3,600, and we need to sign a lease agreement." "Can I see the lease agreement?" I asked. Kenneth handed me a document. I read through it carefully. It was a standard rental agreement, but with one interesting addition. A clause that said if I failed to pay rent on time, I would be immediately evicted with no grace period, and I would forfeit my security deposit. They were setting me up. They wanted me to rent my own house, pay them $3,600 up front, and then they'd have an easy excuse to evict me again and keep my money. "This seems very strict," I said, pointing to the clause. "That's standard for month-to-month rentals," Kenneth lied. It absolutely was not standard. "I'll think about it," I said. "Dorothy, you have 2 weeks," Kenneth said. "If you're not going to rent the house, we need to know so we can find other tenants. We're doing you a favor by offering it to you at all." "A favor," I repeated, "by letting me rent my own house that you stole from me." Kenneth's face went hard. "We didn't steal anything. You signed that house over to Paulette. If you don't remember doing it, that's not our problem." "I'm sure," I said quietly. After Kenneth left, I called Constance and told her about the rental agreement. "Don't sign it," Constance said. "And Dorothy, I have good news. The judge in our quiet title action just ruled in your favor. The forged deed has been declared invalid. You are legally the owner of your house again." "When does that take effect?" I asked. "It's effective immediately," Constance said. "The county recorder has already been notified. They're removing the fraudulent deed from the public record and restoring the original deed in your name. Dorothy, you officially own your house again." "Do Paulette and Kenneth know?" I asked. "Not yet," Constance said. "They'll find out eventually, probably when they try to do something with the property and discover they don't own it. But for now, they have no idea." "Good," I said. "Let them keep thinking they own it. I want to see the looks on their faces when they find out the truth." 25 days after the eviction notice, I told Paulette I was ready to move out. "I found a nice senior apartment," I lied. "I'll be moving out this weekend." "That's great, Mama," Paulette said, though she didn't ask where I'd be living or if I needed help moving. She just seemed relieved I was leaving. "I'm going to need to take my furniture from the house," I said. "What furniture?" Paulette asked, frowning. "My bedroom set, my dining room table, my couch, all the furniture that Samuel and I bought over the years," I said. "Mama, that furniture should stay with the house," Paulette said. "We're renting the house out furnished. You can't take it." "It's my furniture," I said. "I bought it, it belongs to me." "But Mama, if you take all the furniture, the house will be empty," Paulette protested. "How are we supposed to rent it out?" "That's not my problem," I said. "Mama, be reasonable," Paulette said. "You're moving to a small apartment. You won't have room for all that furniture, just leave it. We'll give you a discount on the first month's rent." "I'm not renting the house from you," I said. "I told you I found another place." Paulette's face fell. "What? But Mama, we were counting on you renting." She stopped herself, but I knew what she was going to say. They were counting on me renting the house. They'd been counting on that $1,200 a month. They'd already spent my money in their minds. "I'm taking my furniture," I said firmly. "This weekend, I've hired movers." "Mama, I don't think that's a good idea," Paulette said. "Kenneth and I need to discuss this." "There's nothing to discuss," I said. "It's my furniture, I'm taking it." That evening, Kenneth came to my room. He was angry. "Dorothy, Paulette tells me you want to take all the furniture from the house," Kenneth said. "It's my furniture," I said. "That furniture is part of the house now," Kenneth said. "It's been there for years. It conveys with the property." "No, it doesn't," I said. "Furniture doesn't automatically convey with a property unless it's specified in a sales contract. Since I never sold you the house, because you stole it, the furniture is still mine." Kenneth's jaw tightened. "You're being difficult, Dorothy. Fine, take your furniture, but you're going to regret this." "Am I?" I asked calmly. "Yes," Kenneth said. "Because Paulette and I have been very patient with you. We've let you stay here for 2 years. We've taken care of you. And this is how you repay us. By stripping the house of all its furniture. That's ungrateful." "Ungrateful?" I repeated. "Kenneth, you forged my signature to steal my house. You've been stealing money from my bank accounts. You're trying to evict me after 2 years of pretending to care about me. And you think I'm the one who's ungrateful." Kenneth's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do," I said. "But you're going to find out very soon just how much I know." "Are you threatening me?" Kenneth asked. "No," I said. "I'm warning you. This weekend, I'm moving out. I'm taking all my belongings. And Kenneth, you and Paulette are going to learn a very expensive lesson about stealing from the wrong person." Kenneth stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked out of my room. After he left, I called Beatrice. "It's time," I told her. "I'm moving out this weekend. Is the truck ready?" "It's ready," Beatrice confirmed. "Dorothy, are you sure you want to do this? They're going to be furious." "Good," I said. "They deserve to be furious. They deserve worse than furious." On the 30th day after the eviction notice, the last day I was required to be out of Paulette and Kenneth's house, I made my move. I'd hired a moving company. Not a small one, but a big professional company with a huge truck and 6 workers. They arrived at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. Paulette and Kenneth were still asleep when the movers arrived, but the sound of the big truck parking in front of their house woke them up. Kenneth came downstairs in his bathrobe. "What's going on? Dorothy, what is all this?" "I'm moving out," I said calmly. "Today's the 30th day. You told me I had to be out by today, so I'm leaving." "But it's 7 a.m. on a Saturday," Kenneth protested. "You didn't specify what time I had to be out by," I said. "You just said 30 days. This is day 30. The movers started bringing boxes out of my room. Not just boxes, furniture too. My bed, my dresser, my nightstands, everything. "Wait, you're taking the guest room furniture?" Kenneth asked. "It's my furniture," I said. "I brought it when I moved in. I'm taking it when I move out." Paulette came downstairs, looking confused. "Mama, what's happening?" "I'm leaving," I said, "like you wanted." "But all this furniture," Paulette started. "Is mine," I finished. "I'm taking what belongs to me." "Where are you going?" Paulette asked. "That's not your concern," I said. The movers worked efficiently. Within an hour, they'd emptied my room completely. Then I did something that made Paulette and Kenneth's jaws drop. I gave the movers the address of my house, my real house, the house Paulette and Kenneth thought they owned. "Wait, you're going to that house?" Kenneth asked. "Dorothy, you can't, that's our house now." "No, it's not," I said calmly. "Yes, it is," Kenneth insisted. "The deed is in Paulette's name." "Actually," I said, pulling out a document from my purse, "the deed is in my name, has been for 35 years. That fake deed you filed, it was declared fraudulent by a judge 2 weeks ago. The real deed, the one with my name on it, has been restored to the public record. Kenneth, I own that house. I've always owned it. And you and Paulette are about to find out what happens when you try to steal from me." I handed him a copy of the court order from our quiet title action. The order that declared the forged deed null and void. The order that confirmed I was the rightful owner. Kenneth's face went from red to white as he read the document. His hands were shaking. This can't be real," Kenneth stammered. "It's very real," I said. "You forged my signature, Kenneth. You filed false documents. You committed fraud, and you're going to pay for it." Paulette grabbed the paper from Kenneth. She read it, her eyes getting wider and wider. "Mama, I don't understand," Paulette said. "When did this happen? When did I find out you stole my house?" I asked. 6 months ago. I found the deed in your office, the forged deed with my fake signature. I found the emails between you and Kenneth where you discussed how to steal from me. I found everything, Paulette, and I've been building a case against you ever since." "Mama, I can explain," Paulette started. "Save it for the police," I said, "because I'm pressing charges. Forgery, fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, financial exploitation. You and Kenneth are going to face criminal charges for what you've done." "You're calling the police on your own daughter?" Paulette asked, tears forming. "You stole from your own mother," I said. "You forged my signature, you stole my house, you stole $35,000 from my bank accounts, you tried to evict me, and you did all of it while pretending to care about me. So yes, Paulette, I'm calling the police, and I hope you both go to jail." The movers had finished loading my belongings from Paulette's house into the truck. Now they were heading to my real house, the house I actually owned, to unload everything. "You can't do this," Kenneth said desperately. "Dorothy, we can work this out, we can." "No, we can't," I interrupted. "Kenneth, I'm done. I gave you both a chance to do the right thing. You could have apologized. You could have admitted what you'd done. You could have tried to make it right. Instead, you tried to evict me. You tried to make me pay rent on my own house. You showed me exactly who you are. So now I'm showing you exactly who I am. And Kenneth, I don't lose." I walked out of their house and got into my car. I drove to my real house, the house where Samuel and I had built our life, the house that was rightfully mine, and I never looked back. As the movers unloaded my belongings, I stood in the doorway of my home and smiled. I was back where I belonged. And Paulette and Kenneth were about to discover that you don't steal from Dorothy Williams and get away with it. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 hours after I moved out of Paulette and Kenneth's house and back into my own home, there was a frantic pounding on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Paulette standing there, crying hysterically. I opened the door but stood in the doorway, blocking her from entering. "Mama, please," Paulette sobbed. "We need to talk. Please let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," I said. "You forged my signature, you stole my house, you stole my money. Those are facts, not misunderstandings." "Mama, I'm sorry," Paulette cried. "I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. But please, you can't press charges. Please, Mama, I'm your daughter." "And I'm your mother," I said. "The woman who raised you, who loved you, who sacrificed for you, and you repaid me by stealing from me." I know," Paulette said, wiping her tears. "Mama, I don't know what I was thinking. Kenneth convinced me." "Don't blame Kenneth," I interrupted. "I saw the emails, Paulette. Kenneth suggested forging my signature, but you agreed. You did it. You're just as guilty as he is." "But Mama, if you press charges, I'll go to jail," Paulette said desperately. "I'll lose my job. I'll lose everything. What about Deshaun and Malik? What about your grandsons? They need their mother." That hit me harder than I wanted to admit. My grandsons, 2 teenage boys who had nothing to do with their parents' crimes. They would suffer because of what Paulette and Kenneth had done. But I hardened my heart. "Paulette, you should have thought about your sons before you committed fraud. You should have thought about them before you stole from me. You made your choices. Now you live with the consequences." "Mama, please," Paulette begged. "I'll give you back everything. I'll transfer the money back into your account. I'll sign whatever papers you want. Just please don't press charges." "You can't give me back what you stole," I said. "You spent my money. You spent it on furniture for my house that you were planning to rent out. You spent it on your own bills. It's gone." "I'll pay you back," Paulette promised. "Every penny. It'll take time, but I'll pay you back." "And what about the 2 years you stole from me?" I asked. "What about the 2 years I spent living in your house, feeling unwelcome, being pressured to leave, while you and Kenneth plotted behind my back? How do you pay me back for that?" Paulette had no answer. She just stood there crying. "Paulette, I need you to leave now," I said. "I have things to do." "What things?" Paulette asked, her voice rising in panic. "Mama, what are you going to do?" "What I should have done 6 months ago," I said. "I'm calling the police." Paulette's face went white. Mama, please no. Don't do this, I'm begging you." "Goodbye, Paulette," I said, and closed the door in her face. I could hear her crying on the other side of the door, begging me to reconsider. But I didn't open the door again. I walked to my kitchen, picked up my phone, and made the call I'd been planning for months. "Atlanta Police Department, how can I help you?" "I need to report a crime," I said. "My daughter and son-in-law forged my signature and stole my house. I have evidence." 2 detectives came to my house that afternoon. Detective Marcus James and Detective Linda Foster, both from the Fraud Division. I invited them in and gave them everything. The forged deed with the fake signature. The handwriting analysis proving it was forged. The emails between Paulette and Kenneth discussing their plan. The statement from Jerome, the notary, admitting he'd notarized a document without witnessing my signature. The bank records showing $35,000 withdrawn from my accounts without authorization. The court order from the quiet title action declaring the deed fraudulent. Detective James went through everything carefully, while Detective Foster took notes. "Mrs. Williams, this is one of the most well-documented fraud cases I've ever seen," Detective James said. "You've done our job for us. This is an open and shut case." "So you'll arrest them?" I asked. "We'll present this to the district attorney's office," Detective James said. "Based on what you've shown me, I'm confident they'll issue warrants for your daughter and son-in-law's arrest. This is felony forgery, felony fraud, felony identity theft, and financial exploitation of an elderly person. These are serious charges." "How much prison time are we talking about?" I asked. "That depends on a lot of factors," Detective Foster said. "But Mrs. Williams, each of these charges carries potential prison time. Your daughter and son-in-law are looking at several years in prison if convicted." I felt a pang of guilt. Several years in prison. Paulette was 42 years old. Kenneth was 45. If they went to prison, their lives would be destroyed. My grandsons would grow up without their parents. But then I remembered how Paulette had handed me that eviction notice without even looking sorry. How Kenneth had tried to make me pay rent on my own stolen house. How they'd spent 2 years pretending to care about me while systematically robbing me. Do what you need to do, I told the detectives. They committed crimes. They should face consequences. We'll be in touch, Detective James said. Mrs. Williams, I'm sorry this happened to you, but I'm glad you fought back. After the detectives left, I sat in my living room, my real living room in my real house, and thought about what was coming. Arrests, criminal charges, a trial, my daughter potentially going to prison. This wasn't how I'd imagined my relationship with Paulette ending up. When she was a little girl, I dreamed of her growing up to be strong, independent, and kind. I'd never imagined she'd turn into someone who would steal from her own mother. My phone rang. It was Kenneth. Dorothy, what have you done? Kenneth demanded when I answered. I reported your crimes, I said calmly. You called the police, Kenneth said, his voice rising. On your own daughter, what kind of mother are you? The kind who doesn't let people steal from her, I said, even when those people are family. You've destroyed our lives, Kenneth shouted. Do you understand that? Paulette is going to lose her job. We're going to lose our house. Our sons are going to suffer, all because you couldn't forgive a mistake. A mistake, I repeated. Kenneth, you didn't accidentally forge my signature. You didn't accidentally steal $35,000 from my bank account. You didn't accidentally file fraudulent documents with the county. You planned it. You executed it. You got caught. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. We would have given you the house back, Kenneth said desperately. Eventually, we were just trying to secure our financial future. By stealing from me? I asked. Kenneth, you make $90,000 a year. Paulette makes $45,000. You're not poor, you're just greedy. You wanted more, so you decided to take what wasn't yours. I hope you're happy, Kenneth spat. When your daughter is sitting in a prison cell, I hope you're happy. I'm not happy, I said honestly, but I'm at peace because I did the right thing. Kenneth hung up on me. 2 days after I filed the police report, Detective James called me. Mrs. Williams, I wanted to let you know that arrest warrants have been issued for Paulette Morrison and Kenneth Morrison. We'll be executing those warrants this afternoon. You're arresting them today? I asked. Yes, ma'am, Detective James confirmed. The DA moved quickly on this case because the evidence is so strong. Both your daughter and son-in-law are being charged with felony forgery, felony fraud, identity theft, and financial exploitation of a senior citizen. They'll be taken into custody, booked, and arraigned. The judge will set bail at the arraignment. What happens after that? I asked. That depends on whether they make bail and what their attorney advises, Detective James said. But Mrs. Williams, based on the charges and the evidence, I'd be surprised if this case goes to trial. Most likely, the DA will offer a plea deal. What kind of plea deal? I asked. I can't say for certain, Detective James said. But typically in cases like this, the DA offers reduced prison time in exchange for a guilty plea and agreement to pay restitution. That means your daughter and son-in-law would have to pay back everything they stole, plus additional damages. And if they don't take a plea deal? I asked. Then it goes to trial, Detective James said. And Mrs. Williams, if this goes to trial and they're convicted on all charges, they could each be looking at 10 to 15 years in prison. My heart sank. 10 to 15 years. My grandsons would be adults by the time their parents got out. But this was Paulette and Kenneth's doing, not mine. They'd committed the crimes. They had to face the consequences. Thank you for letting me know, I said. That afternoon, Paulette and Kenneth were arrested. I wasn't there to see it happen, but my friend Beatrice, who lived in their neighborhood, called me to tell me about it. Dorothy, the police just took them away in handcuffs, Beatrice said. Right in front of their house, all the neighbors were watching. It was quite a scene. What about the boys? I asked. Deshawn and Malik, They're still in the house, Beatrice said. I think they're calling a relative to come stay with them. Dorothy, those boys looked devastated. They were crying on the front porch. I felt a stab of guilt. My grandsons, they didn't deserve this. But I pushed the guilt away. I hadn't created this situation. Paulette and Kenneth had. They should have thought about their sons before they decided to commit fraud. The next day, Paulette and Kenneth appeared in court for their arraignment. I wasn't there. I couldn't bring myself to watch my daughter stand before a judge in handcuffs, but my attorney Constance went and gave me a full report. The judge set bail at $50,000 each, Constance told me. That means they each have to pay $5,000 to a bail bondsman to get out of jail. Kenneth's parents came to court and posted bail for both of them, so they've been released. What happened in court? I asked. The charges were read, Constance said. Both Paulette and Kenneth pleaded not guilty. Their attorney, a public defender named Marcus Webb, asked for time to review the evidence before deciding how to proceed. The judge scheduled a preliminary hearing for 2 weeks from now. What happens at a preliminary hearing? I asked. The prosecution presents evidence to show there's probable cause for the charges, Constance explained. It's not a trial, but it gives the defense a preview of the evidence against their clients. After the preliminary hearing, the defense usually has a better sense of how strong the case is, and that's when plea negotiations typically begin. Do you think they'll take a plea deal? I asked. I think they'd be foolish not to, Constance said bluntly. Dorothy, the evidence against them is overwhelming. If they go to trial, they'll lose. And if they lose at trial, they'll get much harsher sentences than if they'd taken a plea deal. Their attorney will tell them that. What kind of sentence do you think they'll get? I asked. Hard to say, Constance said. But in cases like this, for first-time offenders, the DA usually offers something like 3 to 5 years in prison with the possibility of parole after serving a portion of the sentence, plus full restitution to the victim. That's you. 3 to 5 years. My daughter would be in prison until she was 45 to 47 years old. Kenneth would be almost 50. And my grandsons would be adults. Constance, is there any way to reduce the charges? I asked. For Paulette, I mean, not Kenneth. He was the mastermind. Dorothy, Paulette is just as guilty as Kenneth, Constance said gently. She knew what she was doing was wrong. She chose to do it anyway. And legally, it doesn't matter who came up with the idea. They both committed the crimes. I know, I said quietly. I keep thinking about my grandsons. I understand, Constance said. But Dorothy, you didn't put those boys in this position. Their parents did. Paulette and Kenneth made choices that put their children at risk. That's on them, not on you. I knew she was right, but it didn't make me feel any better. 1 week after Paulette and Kenneth's arrest, I got a phone call from Kenneth's mother, Gloria Morrison. I'd met Gloria a few times over the years at family events. She'd always been cordial to me, though we were never close. Dorothy, it's Gloria, she said when I answered. Her voice was tight. We need to talk. What about? I asked. About what you're doing to my son and his wife, Gloria said. Dorothy, you need to drop these charges. I'm not dropping anything, I said. They committed crimes. They're facing consequences. They made a mistake, Gloria said. A mistake that you're blowing completely out of proportion. Dorothy, they're young. They were under financial stress. They made a bad decision. But they don't deserve to go to prison. They forged my signature, I said. They stole my house. They stole $35,000 from my bank accounts. Gloria, these weren't mistakes. These were deliberate, planned crimes that they carried out over 18 months. But you got your house back, Gloria protested. You got everything back. Why do you need to press charges? Why do you need to ruin their lives? I got my house back because I fought for it, I said. Not because they gave it back. And Gloria, I didn't get everything back. I lost 2 years of my life living in their house feeling unwelcome and pressured. I lost my peace of mind. I lost my relationship with my daughter. They took things from me that can never be returned. So you're going to send them to prison? Gloria asked. You're going to destroy your grandsons' lives? Because that's what you're doing, Dorothy. Deshawn and Malik are devastated. They're ashamed. Their parents might go to prison, and it's your fault. No, it's Paulette and Kenneth's fault, I said firmly. They committed crimes. If they go to prison, it's because of what they did, not because of what I did. You're a vindictive woman, Gloria said coldly. Samuel would be ashamed of you. That stung. Bringing up my late husband to attack me felt like a low blow. Samuel would be ashamed of what Paulette did, I countered. He would be devastated that the daughter we raised turned out to be someone who would steal from her own mother. Gloria, if you want to be angry at someone, be angry at your son. He's the one who came up with the plan to forge my signature. He's the one who talked Paulette into it. My son was trying to provide for his family, Gloria shouted. He was trying to secure their financial future. By stealing from his elderly mother-in-law, I asked. That's not providing for his family, that's being a criminal. Gloria made a sound of disgust. I hope you can live with yourself, Dorothy. When your daughter is in prison and your grandsons are without their mother, I hope you can sleep at night. She hung up. I sat holding the phone, feeling shaken. Was I doing the right thing? Was pressing charges worth destroying my family? But then I thought about how Paulette had handed me that eviction notice. How Kenneth had demanded I pay rent on my own house. How they'd pretended to care about me while stealing from me. Yes, I was doing the right thing. They'd made their choices. Now they had to live with the consequences. 2 weeks after the arraignment, and one day before the preliminary hearing, Constance called me with news. Dorothy, the DA's office just contacted me, Constance said. They've made a plea offer to Paulette and Kenneth's attorney. What's the offer? I asked. Paulette and Kenneth plead guilty to all charges, Constance said. In exchange, the DA recommends a sentence of 3 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 18 months, plus 5 years of probation after release, plus full restitution to you, meaning they have to pay back the $35,000 they stole, plus an additional $50,000 in damages and legal fees. $85,000 total, I asked. Yes, Constance confirmed. To be paid over time after their release from prison. The DA is also recommending that they be required to complete financial crimes, counseling, and perform 500 hours of community service. What happens if they don't take the deal? I asked. Then we go to trial, Constance said. And Dorothy, if they're convicted at trial, they'll each get 7 to 10 years in prison, possibly more. The plea deal is actually quite generous considering the charges. Do you think they'll take it? I asked. Their attorney would be crazy to advise them not to, Constance said. 3 years with parole after 18 months is a good deal. They'd be out of prison in less than 2 years if they behave. If they go to trial and lose, they'd be looking at 7 to 10 years minimum. What do you think I should do? I asked. That's not up to me, Constance said. Dorothy, you're the victim here. The DA will present the plea offer to you, and you have the right to give your input. If you think the sentence is too lenient, you can say so. If you want them to serve more time, you can push for that. But you don't think I should, I said, hearing the tone in her voice. I think justice is being served, Constance said carefully. Your daughter and son-in-law are going to prison. They're going to have criminal records. They're going to lose their jobs, their reputations, and years of their lives. They're going to have to pay you back $85,000. Dorothy, they're facing serious consequences. At a certain point, you have to ask yourself, is more prison time really going to make you feel better, or is it just revenge? I thought about it. 3 years in prison. Paulette would be 45 when she got out. Kenneth would be 48. They'd have criminal records. They'd struggle to find jobs. They'd spend years rebuilding their lives. And my grandsons would have their parents back before they turned 20. Tell the DA I support the plea offer, I said, on one condition. What condition? Constance asked. Paulette and Kenneth have to write me a letter of apology, I said. A real apology, not excuses, not blame, just an honest acknowledgement of what they did and why it was wrong. I want them to take responsibility for their actions. I'll pass that along to the DA, Constance said. Dorothy, I think you're making the right decision. 3 days later, Constance called me back. Paulette and Kenneth have accepted the plea deal. They'll plead guilty next week at a formal hearing. Sentencing will be scheduled for a month after that. Did they write the letters? I asked. They did, Constance said. The DA's office forwarded them to me. I'll bring them to you tomorrow. The next day, Constance brought me 2 letters, one from Paulette, one from Kenneth. I opened Paulette's letter first. It was handwritten on lined paper, like she'd written it in jail. Dear Mama, I don't know where to start. I'm sorry feels inadequate for what I've done to you, but I am sorry. I'm so sorry. You're right, I stole from you. I forged your signature. I conspired with Kenneth to take your house. And I did it all while pretending to care about you, while pretending to be a good daughter. I convinced myself it was okay because I told myself you wouldn't need the house forever. I told myself we'd eventually inherit it anyway, so why not just take it now when we needed it? I told myself you'd be happier in our house with us. But those were all lies I told myself to justify stealing from my own mother. The truth is, I was greedy. I was selfish. Kenneth and I had gotten ourselves into debt, and instead of working our way out of it honestly, we decided to steal from you. I destroyed our relationship. I destroyed your trust in me. I destroyed my own integrity. And worst of all, I hurt you. I hurt the woman who raised me, who loved me, who gave me everything. Mama, I know you'll probably never forgive me. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that I understand what I did was wrong. I understand why you pressed charges, and I accept the consequences of my actions. I'm going to prison. I deserve to go to prison. What I did was criminal, and I'm a criminal. That's hard to admit, but it's true. I hope someday you'll be able to think of me without anger. I hope someday you'll be able to remember the daughter I used to be, the little girl who loved you and looked up to you, and not just the woman who betrayed you. I love you, Mama. I know I have no right to say that after what I've done, but it's true. I love you, and I'm sorry I hurt you. Paulette. I sat holding Paulette's letter, tears running down my face. This was the daughter I remembered, the girl who'd admitted when she was wrong, the girl who'd taken responsibility for her mistakes. Where had that girl gone? When had she turned into someone who could steal from her own mother? With shaking hands, I opened Kenneth's letter. Mrs. Williams, I apologize for my role in what happened. I made a serious mistake in judgment, and I take full responsibility for my actions. I should never have suggested forging your signature. I should never have involved Paulette in my scheme. I should never have stolen from you. I was under financial pressure, but that's no excuse. There's never an excuse for stealing, especially from family. I accept the consequences of my actions, and I will work to make restitution to you as ordered by the court. Kenneth Morrison. Kenneth's letter was shorter, more formal, less emotional. He was apologizing, but it felt like he was just going through the motions. He was saying what he needed to say to get the plea deal, not because he genuinely felt remorseful. But at least he'd apologized. At least he'd taken responsibility. That was more than I'd expected from him. I folded both letters and put them in my desk drawer. Someday, maybe years from now, I'd read them again. But for now, I just needed to move forward. 1 month after Paulette and Kenneth accepted the plea deal, I sat in a courtroom and watched my only daughter be sentenced to 3 years in prison. It was one of the hardest days of my life. The courtroom was mostly empty except for me, Kenneth's parents Gloria and Raymond Morrison, and my 2 grandsons Deshaun and Malik. Paulette and Kenneth stood before the judge in prison jumpsuits, their hands cuffed in front of them. Judge Theodore Washington, a stern black man in his 60s, read through the charges and the plea agreement. Then he looked at Paulette and Kenneth. Ms. Morrison and Mr. Morrison, Judge Washington said, you've pleaded guilty to multiple felonies. Before I accept this plea and impose sentence, I want to ask you both. Do you understand that you're admitting to committing serious crimes against a member of your own family? Yes, Your Honor, Paulette said quietly. Yes, Your Honor, Kenneth echoed. Ms. Morrison, I've read the victim impact statement from your mother, Judge Washington continued. She describes the emotional devastation of discovering that her own daughter, the child she raised and loved, had stolen from her. She describes the betrayal she felt when you handed her an eviction notice. She describes the 2 years she spent in your home feeling unwelcome while you plotted to steal her property. Do you have anything to say to your mother? Paulette turned to look at me. Tears were streaming down her face. Mama, Paulette said, her voice breaking, I'm so sorry. I know I've already said that, but I need to say it again. I betrayed you. I stole from you. I hurt you in ways I can never undo. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to become someone worthy of being your daughter again. I sat in the courtroom gallery, tears running down my own face. Part of me wanted to run up there and hug my daughter. Part of me wanted to tell the judge it was all a mistake, that I wanted to drop the charges. But I didn't, because Paulette needed to face consequences for what she'd done. Loving her meant holding her accountable. Judge Washington nodded. Mr. Morrison, do you have anything to say to Mrs. Williams? Kenneth looked at me. His expression was harder to read than Paulette's. I apologize for what I did. It was wrong, and I take full responsibility. Judge Washington studied Kenneth for a moment. Mr. Morrison, I've been a judge for 23 years. I've heard a lot of apologies in this courtroom. Some are genuine, some are not. I'm not convinced yours is genuine. But fortunately for you, whether or not I believe your apology doesn't affect your sentence. The plea agreement has been accepted by all parties, and I'm going to honor it. Judge Washington looked down at his papers. Paulette Morrison and Kenneth Morrison, you are each hereby sentenced to 3 years in the Georgia Department of Corrections. You will be eligible for parole after serving 18 months of your sentence. Upon release, you will be subject to 5 years of supervised probation. You are also ordered to pay restitution to the victim, Dorothy Williams, in the amount of $85,000 to be paid through a court-ordered payment plan following your release from prison. He banged his gavel. Court is adjourned. The defendants will be remanded into custody immediately. 2 bailiffs came forward to lead Paulette and Kenneth out of the courtroom. As they walked past me, Paulette stopped. Mama, I love you, she said. I love you too, baby, I said through my tears. And then she was gone. My daughter, on her way to prison because of crimes she'd committed against me. After Paulette and Kenneth were led away, my grandsons Deshaun and Malik came over to me. They were 17 and 15 now, almost men. Both were crying. Grandma, how could you do this? Deshaun asked, his voice full of pain and anger. How could you send our parents to prison? Baby, I didn't send them to prison, I said gently. They sent themselves to prison when they decided to commit crimes. But you pressed charges, Malik said. If you'd just forgiven them, they wouldn't be going to jail. If I'd just forgiven them, they would have gotten away with stealing from me, I said. And they would have learned that they could hurt people without facing consequences. Is that what you want? You want your parents to be criminals who never face justice. We want our parents home, Deshaun shouted. We need them. Grandma, we're just kids. We need our mom and dad. His words broke my heart. He was right. They were just kids. And because of what Paulette and Kenneth had done, these boys would spend the next 18 months to 3 years without their parents. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry that your parents made choices that hurt you. But Deshaun, Malik, I want you to understand something. What your parents did wasn't just wrong legally. It was wrong morally. They stole from me. They lied to me. They tried to take away my home. If you grow up thinking that's acceptable because they're family, then I've failed you as a grandmother. We don't need you to be our grandmother, Malik spat. We hate you. Kenneth's mother Gloria came over and put her arms around my grandsons. Come on, boys, let's go home. She looked at me with cold eyes. I hope you're satisfied, Dorothy. You've destroyed this family. No, I said quietly. Paulette and Kenneth destroyed this family. I just made sure they faced consequences. Gloria led my grandsons out of the courtroom. They didn't look back at me. I sat alone in the courtroom for a long time after everyone left. I thought about the little girl Paulette used to be, the sweet child who'd crawl into my lap and say, I love you, Mama. The teenager who'd called me her best friend, the young woman I danced with at her wedding. Where had that girl gone? When had she turned into someone who could betray me so completely? I'd never know, but I knew this. I'd done the right thing. Even if it cost me my relationship with my daughter and my grandsons, I'd done the right thing. 6 months after Paulette and Kenneth went to prison, I was settling back into my life. I'd gotten my house back in order. I'd repaired the damage Paulette and Kenneth had done during their improvements. I'd made my home my own again. I'd also started attending a support group for elder abuse survivors. I learned that what Paulette and Kenneth had done to me, financial exploitation of an elderly person, was more common than I'd realized. Many older adults were being taken advantage of by their own family members. In the support group, I met other seniors who'd been stolen from, manipulated, or abused by their children, grandchildren, or other relatives. Hearing their stories made me realize I wasn't alone. One woman, Ruth, had a son who'd taken out credit cards in her name and run up $50,000 in debt. Another woman, Margaret, had a daughter who'd convinced her to sign over power of attorney and then emptied her bank accounts. A man named James had a nephew who'd forged his signature on a reverse mortgage and nearly lost his house. All of them had struggled with the same question I had. Do you press charges against your own family? Some had chosen to press charges. Some hadn't. But all of them carried the pain of betrayal by people they'd loved and trusted. The hardest part, Ruth said during one meeting, is that I still love him. Even after everything he did, he's still my son. I still want to call him on his birthday. I still want to invite him over for Sunday dinner. But I can't, because he stole from me, because he betrayed me. I understood exactly how she felt. About 7 months after Paulette went to prison, I got a letter from her. It was delivered to my house with a prison return address. I almost didn't open it. Part of me wanted to tear it up and throw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. Dear Mama, I've been in prison for 7 months now. 7 months of wearing orange jumpsuits, eating terrible food, sleeping in a cell with a stranger, and thinking about what I did to you. Prison is horrible. It's dirty and loud and violent and depressing. Every day is the same. Every day I wake up and remember that I'm here because I stole from my own mother. But Mama, being in prison has also given me time to think. Time to really understand what I did and why it was so wrong. For so long, I justified what Kenneth and I did. I told myself we needed the money. I told myself you wouldn't need the house forever. I told myself it wasn't really stealing because we were family and the house would eventually be mine anyway. But I was wrong. It was stealing. It was betrayal. It was one of the worst things a daughter could do to her mother. I've been going to therapy here in prison, mandated therapy as part of my sentence. At first, I resented it, but now I'm grateful for it. My therapist has helped me understand that what I did came from a place of entitlement. I felt entitled to your house, entitled to your money, entitled to make decisions about your life. I forgot that you're not just my mother. You're a person, with your own rights and your own property and your own life. I had no right to take any of that away from you. Mama, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I hurt you too deeply for you to forgive me anytime soon. But I wanted to tell you that I'm changing. I'm becoming a better person. Not because I'm trying to get out of prison early, but because I don't want to be the person who could steal from her own mother anymore. I don't expect anything from you. I don't expect visits or letters or forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that your decision to press charges, as much as it hurt, was the right thing to do. I needed to face consequences. I needed to understand that actions have repercussions. Thank you for loving me enough to hold me accountable. I love you, Mama. Paulette. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it up and put it in my desk drawer next to the apology letter Paulette had written before sentencing. I didn't write back. I wasn't ready yet, but I kept the letter, because maybe someday I would be ready. 1 year after Paulette and Kenneth were sentenced, which was 6 months before they'd be eligible for parole, I got a call from the Victim Services Coordinator at the District Attorney's office. Mrs. Williams, this is Angela Chen from the DA's office. I'm calling to inform you that Paulette Morrison and Kenneth Morrison are eligible for a parole hearing in 6 months. As the victim in this case, you have the right to submit a statement to the parole board regarding whether or not you believe they should be granted early release. What happens if I say they shouldn't be released? I asked. The parole board will take your statement into consideration, Angela said. But ultimately, the decision is theirs. They'll look at the inmate's behavior in prison, whether they've completed required programs, whether they've shown genuine remorse, and whether they pose a continued threat to society. What do you think I should do? I asked. That's entirely up to you, Angela said. Mrs. Williams, you're under no obligation to support their parole. If you believe they haven't served enough time, you have every right to say so. I thought about it for several days. Did I want Paulette and Kenneth to serve their full 3-year sentences, or was 18 months enough? I decided to visit Paulette in prison. I needed to see her face to face before I made my decision. The Georgia Women's Correctional Facility was a depressing place. Gray walls, security checkpoints, guards everywhere. I went through the visitor screening process and was led to a visiting room with plastic tables and chairs bolted to the floor. Then they brought Paulette in. She looked different, thinner, older. Her hair was pulled back in a simple bun, and she wore an orange prison uniform. But when she saw me, her face lit up. "Mama," Paulette said, tears immediately filling her eyes. "You came, I can't believe you came." We sat down across from each other at one of the plastic tables. A guard stood nearby watching us. "How are you, Paulette?" I asked. "I'm managing," Paulette said. "Mama, thank you for coming. I never expected to see you. I thought you'd never want to see me again." "I needed to see you before I made a decision about your parole," I said. Paulette's face fell. "Oh, you're going to oppose my parole." "I didn't say that," I said. "I said I needed to see you first. Paulette, tell me honestly, have you changed? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear?" Paulette was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I have changed, Mama. Prison changes you. You have a lot of time to think in here. A lot of time to reflect on your life and your choices." "What have you learned?" I asked. "I've learned that I was entitled," Paulette said. "I thought because I was your daughter, I deserved your house and your money. I thought your possessions would eventually be mine anyway, so why not just take them when I needed them? But Mama, I was wrong, so wrong. You worked for everything you have. You and Daddy bought that house with your own money. You saved that money in your bank account. None of it was mine, and I had no right to take it." "What about Kenneth?" I asked. "Do you still blame him for leading you into this?" "No," Paulette said firmly. "I used to. When I first got here, I told myself that Kenneth talked me into it, that it was all his idea. But my therapist helped me see that I made my own choices. Kenneth suggested forging your signature, yes, but I agreed. I did it. I'm just as responsible as he is." "How is Kenneth doing?" I asked. "I don't know," Paulette admitted. "We're in different facilities, obviously. And honestly, Mama, I'm not sure I want to know how he's doing. I've had time to think about my marriage, too. And I've realized that Kenneth brought out the worst in me. He encouraged my greed. He made me think it was okay to steal from you. When I get out of here, I'm not sure I want to go back to that marriage." That surprised me. "You're thinking about divorcing Kenneth." "I'm thinking about a lot of things," Paulette said. "Mama, I have 6 more months in here minimum. That's 6 more months to figure out who I want to be when I get out. And I know one thing for certain. I don't want to be the person who stole from her mother. I want to be someone you can be proud of again." "Do you understand why I pressed charges?" I asked. "Yes," Paulette said without hesitation. "You pressed charges because I committed crimes, because I deserved to face consequences. And Mama, as much as I hate being in prison, I'm grateful that you held me accountable. Because if you'd just forgiven me and let it go, I would have learned that I could hurt people without facing repercussions. I would have become an even worse person." I felt tears forming. This was my daughter, the real Paulette, not the greedy, entitled woman who'd stolen from me, but the woman I'd raised to take responsibility for her actions. "Paulette, I'm going to support your parole," I said. Paulette's eyes widened. "What, really?" "Yes," I said. "I'm going to write a letter to the parole board saying that I believe you've served enough time, that I believe you've learned from your mistakes, and that I believe you deserve a chance to rebuild your life. Mama, thank you, Paulette said, reaching across the table to take my hands. The guard took a step forward, but I gave him a look that made him step back. Thank you so much. I won't let you down, I promise. Don't promise me anything, I said. Just be better, be the woman I raised you to be. I will, Paulette said. Mama, when I get out, can I see you? Can we try to rebuild our relationship? We can try, I said carefully. Paulette, I'm not going to pretend that everything is fine. You hurt me deeply. It's going to take time for me to trust you again, but I'm willing to work on it if you are. I am, Paulette said earnestly. Mama, I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that I've changed. We spent another hour talking. Paulette told me about her life in prison, the terrible food, the overcrowded cells, the constant noise. She told me about the other inmates she'd met, many of whom had made far worse mistakes than she had. She told me about the programs she'd completed, a financial literacy class, a parenting class, and the ongoing therapy sessions. When our time was up, we both stood. The guard indicated it was time for Paulette to go back to her cell. I love you, Mama, Paulette said. I love you too, baby, I said. Stay strong, you only have 6 more months. 6 months, Paulette repeated. I can do 6 months. As I watched the guards lead Paulette away, I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Hope. Hope that my daughter really had changed. Hope that we could rebuild our relationship. Hope that something good could come from all this pain. 6 months after my prison visit, Paulette was released on parole. She'd served 18 months of her 3-year sentence. Kenneth was released the same day. I wasn't there for Paulette's release. Kenneth's parents picked her up from prison, took her back to their house where Deshawn and Malik were staying, and helped her begin the process of rebuilding her life. Paulette called me that evening. Mama, I'm out, I'm free. How does it feel? I asked. Strange, Paulette admitted. Everything looks different, sounds different, feels different. I've been locked up for so long that I forgot what the outside world was like. What are you going to do now? I asked. First, I need to find a job, Paulette said. That's going to be hard with a felony record, but I have to try. I need to start paying you back the restitution I owe you. Paulette, I'm not worried about the money, I said. But I am, Paulette said. Mama, I owe you $85,000. I know it's going to take me years to pay it back, but I'm going to do it, every penny, because it's the right thing to do. What about Kenneth? I asked. Are you staying with him? Paulette was quiet for a moment. Then she said, No, I told Kenneth while we were in prison that I want a divorce. He wasn't happy about it, but he agreed. Mama, I can't be married to him anymore. He brings out the worst in me, and I need to focus on being better. What about your boys? I asked. Where will they live? They're old enough to choose now, Paulette said. Deshawn is 18 and Malik is 16. I've told them they can live with me or with Kenneth. I won't force them either way. But Mama, I'm going to be honest with you, they're both very angry at you. They blame you for us going to prison. I know, I said quietly. They told me at the sentencing. I'm trying to help them understand that it wasn't your fault, Paulette said. I'm trying to explain that I committed crimes and I had to face consequences. But Mama, they're young. They're hurt. They feel like you chose revenge over family. It's going to take time for them to understand. Maybe they'll never understand, I said, and that's something I have to accept. They'll understand eventually, Paulette said. I'll make sure they do. Mama, I spent 18 months in prison thinking about what I did to you, about how I betrayed you, about how I destroyed our relationship. I'm not going to let my sons grow up thinking that what I did was okay or that you were wrong to press charges. They need to understand that actions have consequences. Thank you for that, I said. Mama, can I see you? Paulette asked. Can I come visit you at the house? I need to see it again. I need to see what I almost took from you. Yes, I said. Come over this weekend. That Saturday, Paulette came to my house. She drove up in an old car Kenneth's parents had given her. She got out slowly, looking at the house with an expression of pain and regret. I opened the door before she could knock. Hi, Mama, Paulette said quietly. Come in, baby, I said. Paulette walked into the house she'd tried to steal from me, and looked around. Her eyes filled with tears. "It's exactly how I remember it," Paulette said. "The pictures on the walls, the furniture, everything. Mama, I can't believe I tried to take this from you." "But you didn't succeed," I said. "I got it back." "Because you fought for it," Paulette said. "Because you were smarter than Kenneth and me. Because you didn't let us get away with what we did." We sat down in the living room, the same room where, 2 years ago, Paulette had handed me an eviction notice. Now we were sitting here as mother and daughter, trying to figure out how to rebuild what had been broken. "Mama, I need to ask you something," Paulette said. "Can you ever forgive me?" I thought about it. Could I forgive her, after everything she'd done? "I don't know," I said honestly. "Paulette, what you did hurt me in ways I'm still processing. You betrayed my trust. You stole from me. You made me feel unwelcome in your home while secretly plotting to take mine. That's not something I can just forgive and forget." "I understand," Paulette said, wiping tears. "But," I continued, "I think someday I might be able to forgive you. Not today, maybe not this year, but someday. If you show me through your actions, not your words, that you've truly changed. If you prove to me that you're the daughter I raised you to be and not the woman who could steal from her own mother." "I'll prove it," Paulette promised. "Mama, I'll spend however long it takes proving to you that I've changed. I'll pay back every penny I owe you. I'll rebuild our relationship. I'll show you that pressing charges was the right thing to do because it made me a better person." "Then we have a deal," I said. "You prove you've changed, and I'll work on forgiveness." We spent the rest of the afternoon talking. Really talking. For the first time in years, Paulette and I had an honest conversation about everything. Her resentment that I'd lived with them for 2 years, my feelings of being unwelcome in her home, Kenneth's influence on her, her entitled attitude about my house. It wasn't easy. There were tears and raised voices and moments of painful honesty. But it was necessary. We needed to clear the air. By the end of the afternoon, we both felt lighter. We hadn't fixed everything. There was still a long way to go, but we'd taken the first steps toward rebuilding our relationship. As Paulette was leaving, she turned back at the door. "Mama, thank you for not giving up on me," she said. "I know I didn't deserve your support at my parole hearing. I know I didn't deserve this visit today, but you gave me both anyway. That means everything to me." "You're my daughter," I said simply. "I'll always love you, Paulette, even when I don't like what you've done, even when you've hurt me. You're still my baby girl." Paulette hugged me. A real hug. Not the awkward, obligatory hugs we'd exchanged before she went to prison, but a genuine, heartfelt hug between a mother and daughter who were finding their way back to each other. "I love you, Mama," Paulette said. "I love you too, baby," I said. 2 years after Paulette was released from prison, 4 years after she'd handed me that eviction notice, I stood in my kitchen making Sunday dinner when there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Paulette standing there with Deshawn and Malik, my grandsons, now 20 and 18, both young men now. "Hi, Mama," Paulette said. "The boys wanted to come see you." I looked at my grandsons. They looked uncomfortable, uncertain, but they were here. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. We all sat down in the living room. There was awkward silence for a moment. Then Deshawn spoke. "Grandma, we wanted to talk to you," he said. "We wanted to apologize." "Apologize for what?" I asked. "For the things we said to you at Mom and Dad's sentencing," Malik said. "We told you we hated you. We blamed you for our parents going to prison. But Grandma, we were wrong." "Mom's been talking to us," Deshawn continued. "She's been explaining what really happened, what she and Dad did to you, how they stole from you, how they tried to take your house. And Grandma, we're sorry we didn't understand before." "We thought you were being mean by pressing charges," Malik said. "We thought you were choosing revenge over family, but Mom explained that you were choosing justice, that she and Dad committed crimes and they needed to face consequences." "And we understand now," Deshawn said. "We understand that what you did was hard, that it hurt you to press charges against your own daughter, but you did it because it was right. And Grandma, we want you to know that we don't hate you. We never should have said that. I felt tears forming. Boys, thank you for saying that. It means more to me than you know. Can we start over? Malik asked. Can we have a relationship with you again? I'd like that very much, I said. I've missed you boys. We spent the afternoon together. Paulette, Deshawn, Malik, and me. We ate the Sunday dinner I'd made. We talked and laughed and caught up on everything that had happened over the past 4 years. Paulette told me about her job. She'd found work as a medical billing specialist, using her experience from her old receptionist job. It didn't pay as much as her old job, but it was honest work and she was grateful to have it. She told me about her divorce from Kenneth, which had been finalized a year ago. Kenneth had moved to another state and had minimal contact with the boys. He was still on probation and struggling to find work with his felony record. She told me about the payments she'd been making toward the $85,000 restitution she owed me. She'd been paying $200 a month for 2 years. It would take many more years to pay it all off, but she was committed to it. Deshawn told me about college. He'd gotten a scholarship to Georgia State and was studying engineering. Malik told me about his plans to join the military after he graduated high school. Both boys were doing well despite everything their parents had put them through, and both had forgiven me for pressing charges against their mother. After dinner, Paulette asked if she could speak to me privately. We went out to my back porch, just the two of us. Mama, I wanted to tell you something, Paulette said. I've been going to therapy since I got out of prison, and one of the things my therapist helped me work through was my relationship with you and what I did to you. And, I asked, and I've come to understand that what I did to you was a form of abuse, Paulette said. Elder abuse, financial exploitation. I was abusing my own mother. That's hard to admit, but it's true. It is true, I agreed. But Mama, my therapist also helped me understand something else, Paulette continued. She helped me see that by pressing charges, you didn't just save yourself, you saved me too. How so? I asked. If you'd forgiven me and let it go, I would have learned that I could abuse you and get away with it, Paulette said. I would have become an even worse person. I might have done it again. I might have done it to someone else. But because you held me accountable, because you made me face real consequences, I had to change. I had to become better. Mama, going to prison was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But it was also the best thing, because it forced me to look at myself honestly and change. I'm glad you see it that way now, I said. Mama, I know it's been 4 years, Paulette said. And I know you said you needed time to forgive me, so I need to ask, can you forgive me? Have I proven to you that I've changed? I looked at my daughter. Over the past 2 years since her release, I'd watched her work hard to rebuild her life. I'd watched her take responsibility for her actions. I'd watched her make restitution payments every single month, even when I knew she was struggling financially. I'd watched her work to repair her relationships with her sons and help them understand that I wasn't the villain in this story. She'd proven herself. She'd changed. Yes, Paulette, I said. I forgive you. Paulette broke down crying. I pulled her into my arms and held her while she sobbed. Thank you, Mama, Paulette said through her tears. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for holding me accountable. Thank you for giving me the chance to become better. You're my daughter, I said. I'll always love you, even when you make terrible mistakes. Even when you hurt me, you're still my baby and I'll never give up on you. We sat on my back porch for a long time, mother and daughter, healed and healing, with the weight of forgiveness settling over us like a blessing. 5 years after Paulette handed me that eviction notice, 3 years after her release from prison, I celebrated my 73rd birthday surrounded by my family. Paulette threw me a party at my house, the house she'd tried to steal but that I'd gotten back, the house where my late husband Samuel and I had raised her, the house that was truly mine. All my friends came, Beatrice and her family, people from my church, people from my elder abuse support group, and most importantly, my family, Paulette, Deshawn, and Malik. As I looked around at everyone gathered in my living room, I felt overwhelming gratitude. Gratitude that I'd fought for what was mine. Gratitude that I'd held my daughter accountable. Gratitude that we'd found our way back to each other. Mama, I have something for you, Paulette said, handing me an envelope. I opened it and found a check. A check for $15,000. Paulette, what is this? I asked. It's the final payment, Paulette said, crying happy tears. Mama, I've paid you back, all $85,000. It took me 3 years. But I did it. I paid you back every penny I stole from you, plus the damages. I looked at the check. For 3 years, Paulette had been making payments, sometimes $200 a month, sometimes more when she could afford it. And now, finally, the debt was paid. I'm so proud of you, I said, hugging my daughter. I couldn't have done it without you, Paulette said. Mama, you taught me that actions have consequences, that you have to face what you've done, that you have to make things right. And you taught me that even when we make terrible mistakes, we can change. We can become better. We can be forgiven. Later that evening, after the party was over and everyone had gone home except Paulette, we sat together on my front porch, just like we used to do when she was a little girl. Mama, can I ask you something? Paulette said. Anything, baby, I said. Do you regret pressing charges? Paulette asked. If you could go back and do it all over again, would you still call the police, or would you handle it differently? I thought about it. Would I do it differently? Would I have just forgiven Paulette and tried to work things out privately? No, I said firmly. I wouldn't change anything. Paulette pressing charges was the hardest thing I've ever done. It broke my heart to watch my only daughter be sentenced to prison. But it was the right thing to do, because you needed to learn that you can't steal from people, not even family, and get away with it. You needed to face real consequences. And honestly, baby, if I'd just forgiven you and let it go, we wouldn't be sitting here right now with this genuine relationship. We'd still have that resentment and entitlement between us. You're right, Paulette said. Mama, I used to be so angry at you for pressing charges, but now I understand that it was an act of love, a painful, difficult act of love, but love nonetheless. That's exactly what it was, I agreed. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the sunset. Mama, I love you, Paulette said. I love you too, baby, I said. Always have, always will. My name is Dorothy Williams. I'm 73 years old. 5 years ago, my daughter and son-in-law wanted me out of their house, so I walked out with everything. I walked out with my dignity, my property, my self-respect. And eventually, after my daughter served time in prison and proved she'd changed, I walked out with a healed relationship too. My daughter wanted me out, but what she got instead was a lesson she'll never forget. You don't steal from Dorothy Williams and get away with it. And in the end, that lesson saved both of us. This story teaches us Sparkle's elder abuse by family members is a serious crime. Sparkle's forgiveness doesn't mean avoiding consequences. Sparkle's love sometimes means holding people accountable. Sparkle's pressing charges against family is valid when crimes are committed. Sparkle's prison can be a catalyst for genuine change. Sparkle's forgiveness is possible after accountability. Sparkle's family relationships can be rebuilt after betrayal. Sparkle's standing up for yourself protects your dignity. If this story moved you, subscribe for more powerful grandmother stories, smash that like button, turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Did Dorothy do the right thing pressing charges? Should she have forgiven Paulette sooner? Where are you watching from? United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Jamaica, South Africa, Trinidad, Barbados, Bahamas, Guyana. Remember, elder financial abuse is a crime. Family members who steal from elderly relatives should face consequences. Forging signatures is a felony. Holding family accountable is an act of love. You have the right to press charges even against your own children. Prison can motivate genuine change. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or avoiding justice. Rebuilding trust takes time and consistent action. Standing up for yourself teaches others to respect you. Your property is yours. Family doesn't automatically have rights to it. Accountability and forgiveness can coexist. Don't let guilt prevent you from seeking justice. True love sometimes means tough consequences. Elder abuse support groups exist. You're not alone. Restitution is important, but genuine change matters more. Thank you for following Dorothy's journey from betrayal to justice to reconciliation.